Hello, dear second year students. Welcome to English classroom. This is Chesterton, Assistant Professor of English. So, let us take one interesting lesson today in this video. And the lesson is on the pleasures of no longer being very young. This is written by an author by name G.K. Chesterton. In the title I have mentioned, just a second. Well, in the title I mentioned as the essayist because the lesson is an essay. Okay, shall we go into the details and check something about the author or essayist? Yes. So this is G.K. Chesterton, who lived between 1874 and 1936. He lived for about how many years, tell me? 62 years. So out of 62 years of experience, he has written this particular essay, right? So this is our author, G.K. Chesterton, very famous English uh, writer, essayist, literary critic, philosopher, and a journalist, right? And is a contemporary of E.V. Lucas, another important English writer, right? So he is known for genial wit and was a pleasant moralist. Okay, whatever you take, his essays or okay stories or whatever, okay, they consist of genial, gentle wit. Okay, witticism will be there. You will be cleverly employing certain techniques in the sentences will be written so wittily, so cleverly that you get laughter. Okay, inward laughter, right? And he tells some morals, teaches through his writings in a gentle manner. So he's a genial wit and a pleasant moralist, right? So during the interwar years 1914 and 1918, so many young writers wrote melancholically. Okay, they wrote melancholically means they wrote on sad themes because of the effect of the war. So many people died, they lost their employment, there was economic crisis during the First World War. But he took a different direction. Okay, he wrote very cheerfully even during the interwar years because he's an optimist. Okay, he always keeps peace within himself, right? That's why his writings are all the more very cheerful, pleasant. Okay, in though he's a moralist, he never uses abusive language. He makes us to realize things and practice certain truths of life. That is his method of okay teaching things. The present essay is taken from All Is Grist, a collection of essays. Okay, from one of the essays called collection of essays called All is Grist, all is useful. Grist is something related to grain in the farming. So, so All is Grist, the name of the book. Okay, collection of essays from which this particular essay on the pleasures of no longer being very young is taken, right? So I'll explain the meaning, don't worry, a little while from now. So I want about 40 minutes of attention, okay, from you, right? So I want all of you to do this, okay, the present essay. So you uses two tools, especially paradox. Paradox means the contradiction, the opposite, okay, and wordplay. Okay, uses words so which are there will be assonance, there will be okay similar sounding words, so that when you read a sentence, you understand, you really relish reading it more. Got my point? There is word play. For example, I'll explain when we actually go into the text, right? And his essays bring about subtle humor, Humor will be there. They are not outright comedy, but still there is subtle humor will be there. Okay, you feel like laughing within yourself. That is subtle humor. You got my point? And the Victorian age in literature and Ballad of White Horse, a poem, etc. are some of his works. There are so many works actually. I have, you know, taken care to okay mention two of his works. Ballad of White Horse, poem, the Victorian age in literature. These are some of the writings. Let's go to the next. Okay, the theme of the essay. Okay, I'll explain the theme and I'll take you to the text. Okay, what is the theme? It's an essay in defense of the old age. As I mentioned, what is the title? On the pleasures of no longer being very young. You are no more young. That means there are pleasures. Okay, you have so many advantages. Pleasures mean advantages. No longer being very young means you are old. So there are so many advantages in your old age. In other words, you are no longer young means you are old, right? So this is the theme. As you enter into your old age, you think that you're going to become very old. You are going to become weak. Your mental faculties will be declined. You will have forgetfulness. Okay, all of you will suffer from ailments, health hazards. You will be nearing the death will be always lurking on ahead. No. But according to the author, he took a different line of thinking, saying that the real advantages are there in the old age alone. Okay, so this is an essay in defense of old age. Okay, generally we dislike old age. We don't know what is old age, but according to him, old age is really good. Really, okay. It is attached with so many advantages. There are three stages of life basically. In order to understand this essay more clearly, in fact, it's a very tough lesson because it has so many examples, allusions, anecdotes, okay, references. It's a little bit, the content itself is little weighty concept, weighty, okay, intellectually weighty concept topic. So in order to make it easier, I took all the efforts to make it easier. So that's why I want all of you to see this video 2 or 3 times, and whatever text I am going to show to you during this video, I want all of you to go through the actual text at least 1 or 2 times. Wherever you want a doubt or wherever you didn't understand, just pause there and read the points once again. That's one thing. Or you go backward and forward and okay, see to it that you see this video 2 3 times so that this topic becomes very interesting and you will actually okay enjoy this topic. This is though it is argumentative essay, but you really enjoy it once you understand. So I want all of you to give your total attention on this video, right? So according to the author, life is basically okay, it consists three stages, as you know. One is young age, second is middle age up to your um, productive, in the sense you're productive in your services to the society as an employee, up to your retirement. For example, in India, take it has 58 years, something like that. Okay, up to 55 to 60 years, and after 55 to 60 years, you have enter into the last phase of life, that is later part of life, that is old age. You got my point? This is three. This is one. The three important stages. But he's talking about the old age. There are so many pleasures, so many merits, right? So what are those merits? Are you interested? Okay. So as I told you, it's an essay. It is an argumentative essay. There are different kinds of essays, right? Um, an essays which narrative essays will be there. Okay, descriptive essays will be there. and explanatory essays will be there. This is augmentative essay, where the author presents so many arguments in defense of his points he are putting forward. Okay, where the author cleverly argues that old age has many advantages over young age as one passes through the middle age and enters into the later part of one's life with examples and anecdotes from classics, Bible, and other historical references. Okay, so it takes so many examples from history, from Bible, biblical references, and classics, okay, other references in order to drive home his point. అతను ఏం పాయింట్ చెప్పాలనుకుంటున్నాడో ఈ ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ సపోర్టివ్గా ఎన్నో ఇలాంటి రెఫరెన్సెస్ తీసుకొని వస్తాడు. అందుకోసం మనం జనరల్గా చదివితే ఈ లెసన్ కొంచెం టఫ్గా అనిపించచ్చు. సో మీరు ఈ వీడియో చూస్తే డెఫినెట్గా మీకు చాలా ట్రెమెండస్ క్లారిటీ వస్తుంది మీకు. ఓకే, సో ఈ ఎస్సేలో పారాడాక్స్, దట్ మీన్స్ కాంట్రడిక్షన్, కాంట్రాస్ట్ అనేది ఇతను ఎంప్లాయ్ చేస్తాడు. ఓకే, పారాడాక్స్ అనే ఒక మనము తెలిసి ఉండాలి. ఓకే, సపోజ్ వెన్ యూ write something on a black dark surface, okay, you clearly notice the difference. So that is the paradox. And wordplay, as I already mentioned once in this video, can be seen frequently used tools in this essay. Paradox and wordplay sentences will very cleverly crafted. For example, people like us, in order to write a simple sentence, we struggle a lot because our vocabulary is very poor compared, but he's a very great writer. His vocabulary is much more vaster. So, in order to tell a simple thing, he has vast vocabulary. The okay, use of vocabulary is really amazing. Okay, so wordplay will be there because it's such a big, okay, who he has a huge command over the language and has huge vocabulary, vast vocabulary. That's why the sentences will be very beautiful. Just when I will be reading through the sentences, I want all of you to observe the actual essay. That is the beauty of listening to the essay, is really good. Okay, maxim, there is a word I would like to, this is the thing you must understand what is maxim when you want to read this essay. Unless you know what is maxim, you don't understand this essay properly. Maxim is a simple proverb. Okay, in Telugu language, English language, our parents, grandparents, and elders will be using so many maxims. There are so many different words, okay, which are synonymous with this word. A saying, proverb saying, precept, something which is, okay, told with a condensed manner, okay, shortened version. Great truths will be revealed through short sentences. It's a precept, but also a maxim. Epigram, we can also say. Epigram is also a maxim or proverb. Axiom, you can say. Okay, and aphorism. All these are equal, synonymous. Aphorism equal to, axiom equal to, precept equal to maxim, right? A saying simply. So general meaning is expressing a rule of conduct and truth. Why so many our elders, okay, tell a proverb according to the situation? Because they want to tell a truth through that proverb. ఒక సామెతను ఉపయోగించి మనకు లైఫ్లో ఎన్నో ట్రూత్స్, మోరల్స్ నేర్పిస్తూ ఉంటారు, అక్కడ ట్రూత్స్ నేర్పిస్తారు, మన కండక్ట్ బిహేవియర్ ఏ విధంగా ఉండాలని. సో దట్ ఈస్ మ్యాక్సిమ్. ఈ మ్యాక్సిమ్స్ని కూడా మనకి ఈ ఆథర్ ఈ ఎస్ఏలో యూజ్ చేస్తారు. Okay, shall we go and check what are these arguments in the essay? మనకు నెక్స్ట్ కొన్ని థీమ్ తర్వాత I have put some important points, but I don't want to show it to you now. I'll come back to this, right, later, a little later, right? First I'll take you through the essay. Yes. Can you see the essay? Okay, just move the picture little towards sidewards. On the pleasures of no longer being very young. That means you can simply say on the contrary. Then ఇంకొక రకంగా ఏ విధంగా అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. On the pleasures no longer being very young అని మీరు గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవడం ఇష్టం లేదు. No longer very young అంటే on the pleasures of being old అని చెప్పుకోవచ్చు. ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ లో మనకున్న అడ్వాంటేజెస్. Got my point? So that is the lessons. That is the title. G.K. Chesterton, as I mentioned, 1874 to 1936. He lived for 62 years. So though he's talking about old age, is barely 60, barely crossed 60. But from 55 to 60, he might have realized certain, he might have got certain insights. So he's sharing his insights. He's making us realize, he's making us think what are his realization through this essay. There are really so many advantages, very good advantages of old age. Okay, so let us start. Are you ready? There are advantages in the advance through middle age into later life which are very seldom stated in a sensible way. There are so many advantages as you pass from middle age means second phase. The last phase is later part of life, that is old age. They are real advantages, but they rarely seldom in they are rarely mentioned in a sensible way. Okay, good examples of old age are not given by the people. Okay, very less importance is given to really good advantages. Okay, old age is good, they simply say so casually. They only give casual examples, not concrete examples. Okay, is okay, okay, contradicting with the point. General view of the public. General view of the public is something different, but he says that old is really good, worth living it. He's saying. So, what are the advantages? Are you really okay? Uh, Excited to listen to those advantages? Yes. Generally, they are stated in a sentimental way, in a general suggestion that all old men are equipped with beautiful snowy beards like Father Christmas and rejoice in unfathomable wisdom like Nestor. జనరల్గా ఏం చెప్తారు ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ అంటే ఒక లాంగ్ స్నోయి బియర్డ్ క్రిస్మస్ ఓకే గ్రాండ్ ఫా ఉంటాడు కదా అలాగా ఓకే శాంతాక్రాస్ ఓకే ఫాదర్ క్రిస్మస్ అండ్ రిజాయిస్ ఇన్ అన్ఫాథమబుల్ విజ్డమ్ లైక్ నెస్టర్ ఒక గ్రీక్ చీఫ్ టైన్ ఉన్నాడు అన్నట్టు when their city was okay raided and destroyed by enemies. Nestor was the chieftain who spoke very wisely. అతనికి ఉన్న విజ్డమ్ ని మనము చాలా విషయాల్లో రెఫరెన్స్ గా తీసుకుంటాం నెస్టర్. సో ఆ విధంగా ఒక నెస్టర్కు ఉండేటటువంటి విజ్డమ్ ఉంటుంది, వాళ్ళకి చాలా సెన్సిబిలిటీ ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, దే ఆర్ ఎక్విప్డ్ విత్ బ్యూటిఫుల్ స్నోయి బియర్డ్, ఇవన్నీ అని చెప్తా ఉంటాం. అండ్ రిజాయిస్ అన్ఫాదబుల్ విజ్డమ్, విజ్డమ్ అంటే ఇవన్నీ ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్కి ఉంటాయి. ఓకే, సెన్సిబుల్గా ఉంటారు. ఆల్ దిస్ has caused the young people to be skeptical about the real advantage of the old people, and the true statement of those advantages sounds like a paradox. కానీ యంగ్ పీపుల్కి ఇవన్నీ విన్నప్పుడు నిజంగా ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ లో అన్ని అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఉండవని అనుకుంటారు, వాళ్ళకి డౌట్ వస్తుంది. స్కెప్టికల్ అంటే దే విల్ బి డౌట్ఫుల్ బికాస్ వాళ్ళు సరైన ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఇవ్వట్లేదు. ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ అంటే విజ్డమ్ ఉంటుంది, ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ అంటే ఒక బియర్డ్ ఉంటుంది, సెన్సిబిలిటీ ఉంటుంది. నో 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 దానివల్ల అందరు కూడా దీన్ని యంగ్ పీపుల్ ముఖ్యంగా దే డోంట్ అగ్రీ టు ద పాయింట్. ఎస్, సో ఇట్ సౌండ్స్ లైక్ పారాడాక్స్, అపోజిట్. అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఉంటాయంటే ఉండవు అని వాళ్ళకి అనిపిస్తుంది, రైట్? సో దే డోంట్ బిలీవ్ దీస్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్. I would not say that old men grow wise, for men never grow wise, and many old men retain a very attractive childishness and cheerful innocence. నేను మాత్రం ఒప్పుకోను ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ వాయిస్ అంటే. నో నో నో, ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ విజ్డమ్ ఉండాలని ఏమీ లేదు. వాళ్ళు మామూలు పిల్లల్లాగా, చిల్డ్రన్ లాగా, వాళ్ళకి చైల్డిష్నెస్ ఉన్న వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు, నేను చూశాను. చియర్ఫుల్ ఇన్నోసెన్స్, చాలా ఏమీ తెలియని అమాయకంగా ఉన్న వాళ్ళు ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ 60+ వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు. సీనియర్ సిటిజన్స్ లో ఓకే, చైల్డిష్గా ఉన్న వాళ్ళు, నాలెడ్జ్ లేని వాళ్ళు, అంత విజ్డమ్ లేని వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది ఉంటారు. నేను ఒప్పుకోను అంటున్నాడు. He doesn't want to agree to the point. Elderly people are often much more romantic than younger people, and sometimes even more adventurous, having begun to realize how many things they do not know. And they are more romantic with more imaginative. Just like youngster go and see some waterfalls or mountains, వాళ్ళకి అడ్వెంచరస్ చాలా ఇమాజిన్ చేసుకుంటారు. I want to go here, I want to go to America, I want to be adventurous, I want to climb this mountain. ఈ విధంగా ఇమాజినేషన్ చాలా ఉంటుంది. వాళ్ళు కూడా చిల్డ్రన్ లాగా ఎంతో ఇమాజినేషన్ చేసుకుని ఇంకా ఎన్నెన్నో ప్లేసెస్ చూడాలి, ఇంకా నేను చాలా ప్లేసెస్ చూడలేదు. సో దే విల్ బి ఆల్వేస్ ఒక ఫ్యాంటసైజింగ్ థింగ్స్ లైక్ యంగ్ పీపుల్. కాబట్టి ఇది రియల్ అడ్వాంటేజ్ కాదు. ఓకే, హ్యావింగ్ బిగన్ టు రియలైజ్ హౌ మెనీ థింగ్స్ దే డు నాట్ నో. వాళ్ళకి ఎన్ని తెలియదని చెప్పేసి ఇంకా తెలుసుకోవాలని వాళ్ళకి ఇంకా ఎంతజియాజం, తర్వాత ఎగ్జూబరెన్స్, చిల్డ్రన్కు ఉన్న ఎగ్జూబరెన్స్. ఓకే, వాళ్ళకి ఒక పీస్ ఆఫ్ మైండ్ ఏమి ఉండదు. ఓకే, ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ అనగా పీస్ ఆఫ్ మైండ్, సెన్సిబిలిటీ ఇవన్నీ ఉంటాయన్నో, ఇవన్నీ ఉండవని చెప్తున్నాడు. యాక్చువల్గా ఇవి రియల్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ కావు. ఇట్ ఈస్ అ ట్రూ ప్రావర్బ్, నో డౌట్, విచ్ సేస్ దేర్ ఈస్ నో ఫూల్ లైక్ అన్ ఓల్డ్ ఫూల్. ఒక ప్రావర్బ్ లో ఏముంటుంది? దేర్ ఇస్ నో ఫూల్ లైక్ అన్ ఓల్డ్ ఫూల్. ఓకే, మూర్ఖుల కంటే అందరి ఎక్కువ మూర్ఖులు ఎవరు? ఓల్డ్ పీపులే. దే ఆర్ రియల్లీ ఫూలిష్. యంగ్ పీపుల్కి అయినా ఇంకా వాళ్ళకి టెక్నాలజీ తెలిసి ఉండొచ్చు, కానీ బుక్స్ తెలిసి ఉండొచ్చు, కానీ ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్కి తెలియనంత వాళ్ళ మూర్ఖత్వము, ఇగ్నోరెన్స్ వేరే వాళ్ళలో ఉండకపోవచ్చు. కాబట్టి వైజ్ అనడంలో there is no truth according to our author's perception. Perhaps there is no fool who is half so happy in his own fool's paradise. ఓకే, సో వీళ్ళు వాళ్ళ ఫూలిష్నెస్ లోనే వాళ్ళు ఉంటారు. ఇట్స్ లైక్ ఎ ఫూల్స్ పారడైజ్ అన్నట్టు. వాళ్ళ ఫూల్స్ పారడైజ్ లో ఏమి తెలియని ఇగ్నోరెన్స్ లోనే వాళ్ళు అన్ని తెలుసు అనుకొని వాళ్ళు భ్రమల్లో ఉంటారు. ఓకే, సో దే ఆర్ నాట్ ఫూలిష్ పీపుల్ అండ్ ఈజ్ ఆల్రెడీ ఆర్గ్యూడ్ అండ్ వీ షుడ్ అగ్రీ టు ద పాయింట్. బట్ హౌఎవర్, this may be, it is true that the advantages of maturity are not those which are generally urged, even in praise of it. And when they are truly urged, they sound like an almost comic contradiction. So those advantages attached to old age, when you seek, when you want to see them, when you want to have those advantages in the old age, okay, they are really, really comic contradiction. They're really, really amazing. Okay, whatever we think hitherto up to now, that is a complete contradiction, complete opposite to, you know, our line of thinking. They are definitely really good advantages, and they sound very comic, sound very astonishing to us. Okay, let's see the next paragraph onwards. He is giving, for instance, for example, first real advantage is giving. Okay, one pleasure attached to growing older is that many things seem to be growing younger, growing fresher, and more lively than we once supposed them to be. As you enter into 60s, later, okay, last years of 50s, everything seems to be growing younger. So, to all the surroundings, buildings, constructions, everything, institutions, people, the temples, whatever, monuments that you have seen all through these 60 years, they appear to be much younger. Suddenly what happens? You don't know. We all don't know. But he says that they appear to be very younger, fresher, more lively than we once supposed them to be. Once we thought that they are very old and okay, they don't have any life. Now you realize that they are becoming younger. As you're really growing older in age, but the things around you, everything around you seems to be growing younger, growing fresher, right? We begin to see significance, or in other words, to see life in a large number of traditions, institutions, maxims, and codes and manners that seem in our first days to be dead. Okay, life ను మనం ఎలా చూస్తాం యంగ్స్టర్స్ గా? డిఫరెంట్ ట్రెడిషన్స్, ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్, మ్యాగ్జిమ్స్ అంటే ఇప్పుడు చెప్పాను, ప్రోవర్బ్స్, ఇవన్నీ కూడా డెడ్ అండ్ స్టిఫ్ గా అనిపిస్తూ ఉంటాయి. Suddenly after 60, you trying to find new significance, new dimension, new perception when you look at the things. The same thing, same tradition, same institution, not education institution like a marriage, institution like a festival, okay, social gatherings, all our manners, everything appears to be assuming new significance and meaning. Okay, a young man grows up in a world that often seems to him intolerably old. Young man considers that everything is old and dead, it's no more useful to him. Why people are, okay, hankering to these dead practices? Why our parents are telling all these things again and again? Why our grandparents are always after us telling these proverbs and maxims and asking us to follow these things when there is nothing in it? He always has so many complaints. He thinks that it is intolerably old. He grows up among proverbs and precepts that appear to be quite stiff and senseless. Okay, he grows up being listening to all these maxims, proverbs, వాళ్ళు చెప్పే elders, parents, teachers ఇవన్నీ చెప్పే ప్రాబ్స్ అని విని విని వాడు విసిగెత్తిపోతాడు, రైట్? అండ్ precepts, already told you, probes, precepts, these are both are same actually. Axioms, axiom, maxims, etc. That appear to be quite stiff and senseless. Even need stiff and senseless. There is no use. Okay. He seems to be stuffed with stale things to be given the stones of death instead of the bread of life. He gets a feeling of chokedness. Okay. Suppose, okay, somebody puts you in a room, airtight room, and locks up, you feel like suffocating. Okay, he gets suffocated, he gets a feeling of suffocation. Okay, listening to all these things, he thinks that he is living among the stones of death instead of bread of life. Out of these traditions, maxims, proverbs, nothing is going to give him any livelihood. Okay, he thinks that he has to give a different life. These are of no use, they are absolutely useless, they are absolutely trash according to him. Okay, he thinks that he is living among the stones of the dead. He is living among the tombstones in a graveyard or a burial ground in a cemetery. To be fed on the dust of the dead past, to live in a town of tombs. Yes, it is very natural mistake, but it is a mistake. So generally, young people make a mistake of considering everything around is dead. That is living in a town of tombs. That is a mistake. Very natural mistake. It's very natural for you guys also making. At your age, you being the teenagers, you are 18, 19 years, right? You also make the same mistake of, okay, thinking that everything around you is so dead. It's no more useful to your life. It's a mistake, but it's a natural mistake. But it's very natural. You can't avoid, okay, making the mistakes. The advantage of advancing years lies in discovering that traditions are true and therefore alive. So real advantage is when you cross, okay, you're 60. You enter into your 60s, later part of your life. The real advantage is you discover, okay, that traditions are true. Every institution is true. Every maxim and proverb you listen to is true to the fullest. And therefore alive. They are all alive. They are no more dead. That is the real advantage of, okay, later part of your life. Until you have lived, until you have crossed the middle age, you don't have that advantage. Indeed, a tradition is not even traditional except when it is alive. Why do you call something a tradition? Suppose Vanolu festival is a tradition. Batukama festival is a tradition. Okay, why you call it tradition? There's some life in it, people follow it. But young people do not accept it. Okay? But you accept only after your 60s. That's what the poet wants to bring, okay, bring home. It is great fun to find out that the world is not repeated proverbs because they are proverbial, but because they are practical. And coming to proverbs, proverbs you consider as useless. Okay, any proverb comes into existence out of a situation. Our forefathers have, okay, discovered those situations and given it for the benefit of future generations. Okay, it doesn't happen again and again, only proverbially, only now and then such a situation arises, and you make use of the knowledge, okay, given by our forefathers, and, okay, put it to use and get benefit out of it. Okay, they are very very practical, but you don't accept it that at your age. Okay, until I owned a dog, I never knew what is meant by the proverb about letting a sleeping dog lie. There is a proverb. Okay, you didn't know the real meaning of letting a sleeping dog lie. What does it mean? You don't never wake up old issues. Don't go into the old issues. Okay, when you go into the past mistakes, and it is a waste of time, and a lot of argument happens, and there will be tensions building up. You should always forget and forgive old issues. Don't wake up a sleeping dog. Or a fable, okay, story involving animals is a fable about dog in the manger. Generally dog in the manger, and then another proverb wherein a dog goes to animal stuff, where lot of food items, okay, fodder will be given to the cattle like oxen or bulls. Okay, when a dog goes and stands in the trough and barking at the animals don't come go there and eat. Okay, they'll be frightened. And dog doesn't eat. all by himself. So it will be the people who don't have any possession, who cannot have that for themselves, and they don't allow others to have it. Okay, such a person is called dog in the manger. Until and until the point where he bought a dog and experienced these things, he didn't understand the real meaning out of these props. Now those dead phrases are quite alive to me. Now when once he bought a dog, the practical meaning he understood, for they are parts of a perfectly practical psychology. All props are part of a perfect psychology. Our forefathers have given that wisdom. Okay, but we are not prepared to listen to all this practical psychology during our young age, and also even till you pass the middle ages. When only you advance to the middle ages, when you cross the second part of your life, then that is the right stage where you understand life in a different color. But the irony is, you will be getting older bodily, right? Until I went to live in the country, I had no notion of the meaning of the maxim. It's an ill wind that blows nobody good. There is another maxim, another proverb. In any bad situation, there you can take something out of it. There is good coming out of it. There is some positivity even in the total negative situation. Even in the corona pandemic situation, okay, you can take so many positives out of it. Definitely, yes, because we are adopting ourselves to online lessons. You have learnt so many things. Wherever you are weak in certain subjects, you made use of this time and emerged victorious. These are advantages. Even in any bad situation, there will be some good elements. Okay, he is giving some examples. Now it seems to me as pertinent, as relevant, and even pungent as if it were a new remark just made to me by a neighbor at the garden gate. Okay, so at a garden gate, a person told him, in any bad situation, worst situation, you have some good element, okay, coming out of it. Okay, he didn't realize till he actually experienced when a gardener told him. It is something to come to live in a world of living and significant things instead of dead and unmeaning things. So old age is something. Okay, such phase of life where dead things will be coming alive. This is the advantage. You got my point? Everything will be coming, growing younger, okay, growing significant, and everything will be coming to life. That is the number one advantage of old age. It is something to come to live in a world of living and significant things instead of dead and unmeaning things. Everything assumes no meaning, and it is youth in revolt, even in righteous revolt, which seems its surroundings as dead and unmeaning. So you generally revolt against. So as I told you, it is so natural to revolt against traditions because you have exuberance, teenage exuberance, enthusiasm. You are not willing to accept anybody who says some good words, right? So it's very natural that you revolt against traditions. Okay, but in old age, what happens? There is an advantage, and even second childhood. Old age can be called a second childhood, right? You have all the enthusiasm, all the energy, all the realizations, but only thing is your bodily weak. You are moving towards death. That is the relentless certainty that has come to see that everything means something, and that life itself has never died. Then in the second child, in the old age, you realize that everything means something, everything there is meaning. Okay, which are completely, okay, rebuked, admonished, and taken away. Now, the same person, after reaching his old age, realizes that there is something in it. There is something in it. Okay? He realizes, he sees life and significance, meaning in it, right? Next. For instance, we have just seen a staggering turn of the wheel of fortune, which has brought all the modern material pride and prosperity to a standstill. He's giving some examples. Okay? In every, there was one proverb given just few minutes before. In every bad situation, there is some good coming out of it. America, which a year or two ago seemed to have become one vast Eldorado, studded with cities of gold, is almost as much embarrassed as England and really much more embarrassed than Ireland. Okay, big countries is talking about industrial revolution. Okay, they have developed so much in the field of economy. They have set up so many industries. Big industries have come in those countries, but still, after a point, they have some setbacks and there are some embarrassments. There are some risks involved in the process of industrial revolution. On the other hand, the industrial countries are actually finding it difficult to be industrial. Okay, there are negative points also. While the old agricultural countries still find it possible to be industrious. Okay, now, for example, in agricultural countries, okay, like Ireland, etc., according to the author, they find so many, still find it possible to be industrious. Okay, they're still within, still being in the agricultural sectors. Agricultural only కూడా వాళ్ళు ఎన్నో పాసిబిలిటీస్, కొత్త పాసిబిలిటీస్ వైపు వెళ్ళగలుగుతున్నారు. ఇండస్ట్రీ వైపు వెళ్ళిన వాళ్ళు, ఇండస్ట్రియల్ రెవల్యూషన్ వెళ్ళిన వాళ్ళు ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఫేస్ చేస్తున్నారు. ఓకే, టోటల్గా అగ్రికల్చర్ ఉన్నా కూడా వాళ్ళకు ప్లస్ పాయింట్స్ చాలా ఉన్నాయి. ఓకే, సో లైక్ దాట్. నౌ ఐ డు నాట్ ప్రిటెండ్ టు హ్యావ్ ప్రొఫెసీడ్ ఆర్ ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ దిస్ ఫర్ అ మ్యాన్ may cheerfully call a thing rotten without really expecting to rot. Okay, now మనం ఎవరం కూడా we don't really predict things, though we have so many examples in the history. Okay, for example, egg is there, nobody knows that egg is going to be rotten unless you break it, but till that point people think that that's a good, the egg in good condition. Okay, so nobody knows, including himself. Only after 60 you realize that this is going to happen. Okay, you fail to take examples from the historical references. Now I do not pretend to have prophesied or expected this, for a man may cheerfully call a thing rotten without expecting really expecting to rot. Nobody knows an egg is going to be rotten. But neither certainly did the young, the progressive, the prosperous, or the adventurous appreciate. He even didn't expect. He doesn't know whether an egg is rotten or in good condition. But generally, more people, the people who are more prone to making mistakes are the young people, the progressing people who are, okay, fast progressing in their life, the prosperous, the adventurous people. Okay, the young will be generally progressive, prosperous, adventurous. They don't expect things to happen until they go fast and hit a wall and, okay, tumble down, and then they realize that, oh, I made a mistake. Okay, until it happens nobody realizes, especially the young people. Yet all history and culture is stiff with probes and prophecies telling them to expect it. But all history says, so many examples say that, okay, they always urge us to, okay, practice caution. Okay, cautious గా ఉండాలని చెప్పి మనకి ఎందరో చెప్తా ఉంటారు. We seldom follow, we rarely follow them. The trouble is that they thought the proverbs and mystery a great deal of two stuff. ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటంటే యంగ్స్టర్స్ అందరు కూడా ఈ హిస్టరీలో ఉన్నవన్నీ కూడా ఓన్లీ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్. ఓకే, అవి నిజాలుగా ట్రూత్గా అవి, ఓకే, ట్రూత్గా టర్న్ అవుట్ అవ్వవు అవి. దే ఆర్ గ్రేట్ డీల్ టు స్టిఫ్, చాలా స్టిఫ్గా ఉంటాయి. దే డోంట్ వాంట్ టు take the words of wisdom and maturity by our past masters. Again and again, with monotonous reiteration, both my young friends and myself had been told from childhood that fortune is fickle. This is another, fortune is fickle, another proverb. All these proverbs I showed in red color. Okay, when we go into the main points, we can check it out. Okay, ఫార్చ్యూన్ అనేది, రిచెస్ అనేది ఎప్పుడు ఫికిల్గా ఉండదు, మారుతూ ఉంటుంది. చంచల స్వభావం ఉంటుంది అన్నట్టు. ప్రాస్పెరిటీ ఎప్పుడు కూడా డబ్బులు ఎవరి దగ్గర ఒక దగ్గర ఉండకపోవచ్చు, అవి గో ఆన్ కీపింగ్. That riches take themselves wings and fly, that power can depart suddenly from the powerful, that pride goes before a fall. This is another power. ఏది కూడా మనకు డబ్బులు కానివ్వండి, పవర్ అంటే అధికారం కానివ్వండి, ప్రైడ్ మనకున్న గర్వం కానివ్వండి, ఇవన్నీ కూడా ముందు వస్తాయి. ఇవన్నీ పోతూ ఉంటాయి, కాన్స్టెంట్గా ఉండవు. ప్రైడ్ వచ్చిందంటే, గర్వం వచ్చిందంటే ఆ వ్యక్తి కానీ, ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ కానీ, కింగ్ కానీ పడిపోతున్నాడు, ఈజ్ గోయింగ్ టు ఫాల్. ఇవన్నీ మనకు ఉన్నాయి. అండ్ ఇన్సోలెన్స్ ఇస్ ఎ ట్రాక్స్ ద థండర్ బోల్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద గాడ్స్. Insolence అంటే rude people. They attract thunderbolts of the ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. When you are rude and rude towards the people, you are not humble, you don't have humility, definitely thunderbolts, you will be put to the anger of the gods. Gods will punish you. People don't listen to those words of wisdom. But it was all unmeaning to us, and all the probes seemed stiff and stale, like dusty labels and neglected antiquities. మీరు ఏదైనా మ్యూజియంకి వెళ్తే old objects ఉంటాయి. If you go to Solarjung Museum, there is an artifact, okay, or Buddhist monument, there is an artifact. దాని లేబుల్ అంతా డస్టీగా ఉన్నట్టుగా ఇవన్నీ కూడా డస్టీ లేబుల్స్ ఉన్నాయి. వీటికి ఎలాంటి మీనింగ్ లేదు. మనం we did not follow these అనుకుంటాం. We had heard of the fall of Wolsey, which was like the crash of a huge palace, still faintly rumbling through the ages. We had read of it in the words of Shakespeare, which possibly were not written by Shakespeare. Shakespeare ఒక ప్లేస్లో ఒక వోల్సీ అనే ఒక వ్యక్తి యొక్క స్టోరీ ఉంటుంది. మేబీ షేక్స్పియర్ రాసిండకపోవచ్చు, షేక్స్పియర్ వేరే హిస్టారికల్ క్రానికల్స్ నుంచి తీసుకొని ఉండొచ్చు. A Wolsey is a very good chief minister under Henry VIII, Italian emperor. Okay, because he could not do a work. Okay, he could not accomplish a thing, a work for the king. The king removed him from power. Until such point, he was very, very rude and insolent. Finally, fell down. ఓకే, ఓల్సీ అనేవాడు ఫాలో అవుతాడు, అతనికి ఉన్న పవర్ పోతుందని ఎవరు ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేయలేదు ఆ టైం వరకు. వీ హ్యావ్ లెర్న్ దెమ్ అండ్ లెర్న్ నథింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ దెమ్. ఇవన్నీ హిస్టరీలో చదివాము, కానీ యాక్చువల్గా ఆ లెసన్ తీసుకోలేదు, ప్రాక్టికల్గా మనం యూజ్ చేయలేదు. వీ హ్యాడ్ రెడ్ 10,000 times to the point of tedium of the difference between the Napoleon of Marengo and the Napoleon of Moscow. But we should never have expected Moscow if we had been looking at Marengo. So we all know that Napoleon Bonaparte, a great warrior and dictator of France, who ruled France between 1769 and 1821, something like that, ఆ period లో. So he won at the battle of Napoleon of Marengo. Marengo అనే ప్లేస్ దగ్గర తను వార్ గెలిచాడు. సో అది చూసిన తర్వాత నోబడి థాట్ దట్ నెపోలియన్ మాస్కోలో ఒక ఇంక్లిమెంట్ వెదర్లో సోల్జర్స్ అందరు ఫ్రీజింగ్ గురవుతారు. దిల్ బి స్నో, లాట్ ఆఫ్ స్నో అండ్ ఐస్ ఫాలింగ్ ఆన్ దెమ్, హీ విల్ బి డిఫీటెడ్, హీ విల్ బి క్యాప్చర్డ్ అని ఎవరు కూడా ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేయలేదు. ఓకే, ఆల్ థాట్ దాట్ నెపోలియన్ వాజ్ ఇన్విన్సిబుల్, హీ కెనాట్ బి డిఫీటెడ్ అనుకున్నారు. ఓకే, ఒకవేళ పాస్ట్ హిస్టారికల్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తీసుకుంటే డెఫినెట్గా నెపోలియన్ కూడా ఏదో ఒక పాయింట్లో డిఫీట్ అవుతాడు, ఓకే, యుద్ధంలో ఓడిపోతాడని అనుకునేవాళ్ళు, కానీ ఆ పాయింట్ వరకు ఎవరు రియలైజ్ అవ్వలేదు. బట్ వీ షుడ్ నెవర్ హ్యావ్ ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ మాస్కో ఇఫ్ వీ హ్యాడ్ బీన్ లుకింగ్ ఎట్ Marengo. Okay, he might have won at a war, okay, and we had not thought about the victory, the loss at Moscow. It didn't happen. Okay, had we have wisdom, we would have expected that at some point of time he's going to fall. Okay, he's going to lose a battle. And we know that Charles V resigned his crown, or Charles I lost his head. Okay, great kings, like great Italian kings, these are Charles V and Charles I. The first king lost his crown, his kingdom, and the second king was beheaded. His head was chopped off. Nobody thought that they will meet such a fate. And we should have duly remarked sic transit gloria mundi. Okay, we have read so many number of times that glory is not permanent, impermanent. Somebody is glorious, somebody is sitting on a position. Okay, nobody think that they are going to vacate their position, vacate their seat. Even in the political scene of India, there are so many prime ministers and chief ministers who thought that they are going to rule their state or the country forever, but that did not happen. Okay, after the incident, but not before it. After the incident, people say that glory is not permanent, not before that. That is the tragedy of human psychology, human thinking. We had been told that Roman Empire declined, or that the Spanish Empire disintegrated, but no German ever really applied it to the German Empire, and no Britain to the British Empire. We had We had solid examples of Spanish Empire and Roman Empire falling down, but German people did not apply them to their German Empire, and Britons also to their German Empire. That's their empires are also going to fall. Only after falling down of the empires people realized that is the tragedy. The very repetition of these truths will sound like the old, interminable repetition of the truisms. And yet, they are to me, as the moment, like amazing and startling discoveries, or I have lived to see the dead probes come alive. So these are all okay, startling revelations, and I find them so amazing truths at this age. When once I cross my 50s, when I am into late 50s, then I realize all these historical pause and realize, whoa, these are the truths. Only a man with a difference of 50 years of experience between the engage, between his birth and his okay lifespan can only realize such realizations. And these are amazing to them. Okay, one feels within himself, oh, these are the realities, these are the truths. Okay, he goes on realizing such things from history and different okay sources, that how amazing it is, they are really truths. But why couldn't people realize beforehand? మరి జరగకముందే ఎందుకు వాళ్ళు అంచనా వేయలేకపోయారు అనేది మనకు 60 years తర్వాత వాళ్ళలో వాళ్ళకి తెలుస్తుంది. And they feel so great about it. That is the advantage. And a few more great advantages they're giving. This is so many of the realizations of later life is quite impossible to convey in words to anybody who has not reached it in this way. It's very difficult to tell it in the words. Okay, మన మాటలో చెప్పలేము. Kind of happiness, the kind of wonderment you feel within yourself. ఇది మనము ఓన్లీ ఆ ఏజ్కి వెళ్ళిన తర్వాత తెలుస్తుంది అంటున్నాం. It is like a difference of dimension or plane in which something difference of dimension and plane. ఒక డిఫరెంట్ డైమెన్షన్ అన్నట్టు. మనకు 2G ఫోన్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత 3G ఫోన్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత తెలిసింది వాట్ ఈస్ ద డిఫరెన్స్, వాట్ ఈస్ ద స్పీడ్ ఆఫ్ ఇంటర్నెట్, అండ్ 4G and 5G we are going to go, right? సో లైక్ దాట్ డిఫరెంట్ డైమెన్షన్ ఒక ప్లేన్ అనేది మనకు ఓపెన్ అవుతుంది, డిఫరెంట్ పర్సెప్షన్, రైట్? జస్ట్ లైక్ ఫోర్త్ డైమెన్షన్ అంటాం కదా, వీ హ్యావ్ త్రీ okay tigers, three lions in our national emblem. There will be also fourth lion at the back of it. Only a student of civics knows this. The same way, there are another dimension to looking at the things which will open up for you in your old age, in which something which the young have long looked at rather warily as a diagram has suddenly become a solid. సో ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్లో మీరు ఒక డయాగ్రామ్ లాగా ఒక బ్లాక్ బోర్డ్ పైన డయాగ్రామ్ లాగా, వాల్ పైన డయాగ్రామ్ లాగానే చూస్తున్నారు, జస్ట్ బ్లాక్ అండ్ వైట్ పిక్చర్. It is like the indescribable transition from the inorganic to organic. Okay, as if the stone snakes and birds of some ancient Egyptian inscription began to leap about like living things. The difference is so much, the chance is so much that ఒక ancient Egyptian inscription, ఒక వాల్ పైన ఒక బర్డ్, స్నేక్, ఒక డయాగ్రామ్ ఉంది, సడన్ గా లైఫ్ వచ్చేసి ఓకే it becomes a real snake and becomes a real bird and flies off into the air. How much you are amazed. So such is the difference between our perception in the young age and middle age as opposed to the old age. Okay, such is the dimensional shift, paradigm shift that happens. The thing was a dead maxim when we were alive with youth. It becomes a living maxim when we are nearer to death. All the maxims అన్ని కూడా okay till your middle age, especially in your okay youthful age, they appear to be dead maxims, dead probes. Okay, it becomes a living maxim when we are nearing to death, when you actually okay attain to the age of 60s, old age. Then you think that they are living maxims, there is life in it. Okay, they are practical, they are really really useful to our life, you realize that. But the thing is, You are nearing to death. Even as we are dying, the whole world is coming to life. This is okay. This is the wordplay, the irony of life. That is the paradox. You are nearing to death, but everything around you is coming to life. That is the paradox he is using. Another paradox. Okay. Yes. Another paradox is that it is not the young people who realize the new world. Okay, young people do not realize the new world. Suppose new invention discoveries are coming, they don't know the real feeling of great feeling, wonderment that they don't realize within their hearts. The moderns do not realize modernity. So many modern implements are coming, but you don't realize. For example, in our generation, there was no cell phone. Okay, it came after so many years, in after 2005 or 6. Okay, we know the difference what is the difference between to have a cell phone in our life and not to have a cell phone in our life. Now after cell phones, 2G phone, 3G phone, earlier stages there was only a boxy phone. Now it is a smartphone. You can do every interaction, okay, relating to health, economy, banking transactions, everything you can do through your smartphone. But you don't realize the greatness out of it, but we realize, because there is an age gap. Okay, we lived a life which is so different from others because we have that different background. Your background is only a moving background. Now we are coming to the next point. They have never known anything else. Suppose you're born in a modern age, you don't know what is modernity. Suppose you are traveling in a moving train, you don't know any difference. Suppose you come running and boarded a running train. Now you know the joy of, okay, catching a running train. You know the difference because that's for you, it's an achievement. They have stepped onto a moving platform which they had hardly known to be moving. So modern people, youngsters, okay, they have directly stepped onto the moving platform. For you, there is no amazement. Okay, there is no joy, as a man cannot feel the daily movement of the earth. For example, for so many millennia and even billion, okay, billions of years, earth is moving when we don't realize that we are moving. Yes, when only you go into the space, you see that earth is moving like a ball in the space. Then you realize that, wow, what a great thing happening. Okay, so for you to realize the importance and greatness of change of the new world, you should have the background. Okay, on a dark background, if you write something with a white chalk or something, you see the difference. You see very clearly the contrast, right? So modern people, young people, they don't have the contrast. Old people have the contrast. They always contrast things with their childhood, right? And they realize and they smile to themselves. But you would feel it sharp enough if the earth suddenly moved the other way. Okay? So we don't realize the importance of earth moving, rotating. But when once, okay, for example, think by magic, it stops its movement and starts moving in anti-clockwise movement. Now it is, for example, it is moving in a clockwise movement, and due to some reason it stops its rotation, starts moving in an opposite direction. Then you realize that, oh, Earth has started moving in an opposite direction. You realize that something great happened. So you don't see the greatness, okay, of the great modern inventions when you are a young man. Okay, the older generation consists of those who do remember a time when the world moved the other way. Okay, they do feel sharply and clearly the epoch which is beginning, for they were there before it began. When you know, when you are there at the beginning, the epoch, beginning of an age, then you realize that yes, okay, when you are born in the year 2000 or 2001 or 2 like that, between 2000 and 2005, okay, the cell phone is already there. You don't see the beginning. When you see something, a beginning which is completely contrast to the earlier existence, then you see the greatness out of it. Okay, so you don't see the modern, all new inventions, etc., Okay, nothing, you don't see any greatness in it. Okay, but if you are an old age, then you have an advantage of enjoying the difference and smiling to yourselves. Okay, it is one of the artistic advantages of the aged. Old people have this artistic advantages. Okay, you have that what we call okay, aesthetic advantage. You can see things aesthetically, love to yourself, and that is great satisfaction, right? That they do see new things relieved sharply against the background. Their shape definite and distinct. What is that? Distinctly, you see the difference. For example, you get a visa and you're flying to America and you landed in America. But till you were 20, till the age of 25, you graduation lived in India. You see the difference and you feel, okay, you feel overjoyed, correct? But you're born and brought up, you are from Indian origin, parents brought up in America, then you don't realize what is the importance living in America. Okay, you don't have the background. Unless there is a totally different background, unless you see the beginning of something new is going to happen, new is going to be added to our life, then you don't have that artistic advantage. You have that advantage only when you are an old man or woman. Hence, even the most intelligent of innovators is often strangely mistaken about the nature of innovation and the things that are really new. Even the inventors themselves don't realize the importance of it. And the oldest inhabitant will often indulge in a senile chuckle as he listens to the village orator proclaiming that the village church will soon be swept away and replaced by a factory for chemicals. Only oldest inhabitant means oldest people of that village or town వాళ్ళు మాత్రమే దే హ్యావ్ ఎ సెనైల్ అంటే వీక్ ఓల్డ్ చెకిల్ దే లవ్ దెమ్సెల్స్ ఇన్ ఓల్డ్. ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక విలేజ్ లో చర్చ్ ఉంటుంది, ఆ చర్చ్ ప్లేస్ లో ఒక ఫ్యాక్టరీ వస్తుందని ఎవరైనా అనౌన్స్ చేశారనుకోండి. సో దే సీ ఫస్ట్ లో ఒక చర్చ్ వెళ్ళే వాళ్ళే కాదు, తర్వాత చర్చ్ వచ్చింది, ఇప్పుడు చర్చ్ని తీసేసి ఫ్యాక్టరీ వస్తుంది. ఎర్లీ డేస్ దెర్ ఇస్ నో ప్లేస్ కాల్డ్ ఎ చర్చ్ ఆర్ ఎ టెంపుల్ ఆర్ మస్జిద్. సింప్లీ పీపుల్ యూస్ టు ప్రే విత్ ఇన్ దేర్ హోమ్స్. ఓకే, మోడర్న్ రిలీజన్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత మనం ఈ బుక్ చదవాలి, ఓకే, మనం ఏ విధంగా టెంపుల్కి వెళ్ళాలని ఒక కొన్ని ట్రెడిషన్స్ వచ్చాయి, కరెక్ట్? సో ఫర్ ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ దేర్ ఇస్ నో కాన్సెప్ట్ గోయింగ్ టు టెంపుల్ ఆర్ చర్చ్, దే జస్ట్ ప్రేట్ టు their own God, their own Almighty, right? So they will laugh, okay, within themselves. Really proclaiming, sorry, once again, as he listens to the village orator proclaim that the village church will soon be swept away and replaced by a factory for chemicals. For the oldest inhabitant knows very well that nobody went to church in the old days of his childhood except out of snobbishness, and that it is in his old age that the church has begun once more to be thronged with believers. It's totally a novel concept for an old man. The existence of church, a building, place of worship. Earlier days they didn't have any places of worship. Okay, the method of worshipping also changed, has undergone a lot of transformation. So it's a great thing for the old people who are about 90 or 95 years of age. In my capacity of oldest inhabitant with senile shekil, I will give one instance of a kindred kind. In my capacity of old man, I am going to give one instance, one example with my saline check, with my weak smile. I'm giving to my personal example now, right? So what happened? A man must be at least as old as I am in order to remember how utterly idiotic, inconceivable, and crazily incredible it once seemed that any educated or even reasonably shrewd person should confess that he believed in ghosts. Okay, in his childhood days, there was a concept of existence of supernatural powers like ghosts and spirits. And an educated person or reasonable person with some reason do not approve of or accept such notions of existence of a ghost or a spirit or supernatural powers. Okay, but in those days this belief was there in his childhood, and he must be nearly the oldest inhabitant to know with What solid scorn and certainty, the square and the parson denied the possibility of the village ghost, the parson even more emphatically than the square. In those days, the church people, okay, the square and pairs used to urge people not to believe in those stories. Okay, be rational, okay, have rationality in your thinking. Okay, you should be rational in your thinking. They used to urge people, but people still believed in ghosts, and they have so many ghost stories, okay, circulating among the people. Okay, the village ghost was instantly traced to the village drunkard or the village liar. In so many villages, there were stories that there was a ghost in there. This was okay, haunted house like that. But still, it was traced to be. It's not a ghost. In fact, it is a drunkard, village a drunken man, or it is a liar. Okay, who's telling lies to the people and frightening the people. Okay, scaring the people. So like that, there were so many people believing that there are ghosts. Educated people knew that the dead do not return in the world of sense. Educated people, most of the educated people, only few, even few educated people believed in ghosts. Educated people did not believe in those stories. Those remember those times and have lived to see a man of science like Sir Oliver Lodge, founding quite a fashionable religion, are amused to hear a young man say, "The world is moving away from the supernatural." So, in those years, there is a great person called a young British scientist, okay, called Sir Oliver Lodge. Okay, he founded a new religion called Religion of Science. Okay, after his inventions, he's a pioneer of modern day telegraphic communication and also atomic study. So, after his inventions, people started believing that, okay, there is a new religion called science. There should be science and rationality behind everything. There should be reason behind everything. You should not simply believe in everything. Okay, and after his revelations and this, okay, after his invention, scientific inventions, people realized and amused to hear a young man say the world is moving away from the supernatural. Then the people realized that there are no supernatural powers, ghosts and spirits. We need not worry about them. People got confidence. That is the change. So he saw the difference that when there were times people believed in ghosts, and there are times when people started disbelieving ghosts and believing science. That is the change he noticed. But you have to be a person of nearly 60 years to understand the change, understand the difference and the greatness of change. Okay, the meaning, real meaning of the change. They know in what direction it has already moved. The people know by now that, okay, the world is moving towards science, moving towards reason. They started all cock and bull stories like ghosts and supernatural powers. So this is the essay on the players of no longer being very young by G.K. Chesterton, taken from All Is Grist, which is written in 1931 actually. So now I would like to quickly some of the important points. Okay, we have completed theme, right? Important points. So old age has real advantage than the superficial advantages, which are commonly quoted by the people like beard, wisdom, and soberness, or sensibility, etc., etc., and wisdom like Nestor. ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్కి ఇవన్నీ క్వాలిటీస్ ఉంటాయని చెప్తే ఇవి రియల్గా యాక్చువల్ అడ్వాంటేజెస్ కావు, ఓన్లీ సూపర్ఫిషియల్. ఓకే, దీస్ ఆర్ నాట్ రియల్ అడ్వాంటేజెస్ అకార్డింగ్ టు అవర్ essayist. Old people, okay, old people do not are not so wise. They are equally foolish, imaginative, and exuberant. Okay, right, right. ఓల్డ్ పీపుల్ అనగానే వాళ్ళు వైజ్ అని కాదు, వాళ్ళు కూడా ఫూలిష్గా ఉంటారు, ఇమాజినేటివ్గా, ఇంకా చాలా నేర్చుకోవాలి, చూడాలి, ఎగ్జూబరెంట్గా ఉంటారు అన్నట్టు, చైల్డిష్గా ఉంటారు, చాలా ఫూలిష్ పీపుల్ అయి ఉంటారు. ఓకే, విల్ కంప్లీట్ దిస్ ఇన్ 2 minutes. ద రియల్ అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఆఫ్ ద ఓల్డ్ ఏజ్ advantage of old age are not generally mentioned by people which actually sound like comic contradiction. రియల్ అడ్వాంటేజెస్ మనకి ఎవరు కూడా ఇంతవరకు మెన్షన్ చేసి ఉండలేదు. ఇప్పుడు మనము రియల్ అడ్వాంటేజెస్ మనకు మన ఎస్ఏస్ చెప్తున్నారు, రైట్? The author says that in old age, what seemed to be dead and stiff would now appear to come alive and become significant, like traditions, institutions, maxims, and codes of conduct. మనకున్న మేనర్స్, కోడ్స్, రూల్స్, రెగ్యులేషన్స్ ఇవన్నీ కూడా యంగ్ పీపుల్కి చాలా స్టిఫ్ కండిషన్స్ అనిపిస్తాయి. డెడ్ అనిపిస్తాయి. వాళ్ళకి ఏం యూజ్ లేదు, వాళ్ళకి ఎలాంటి లైవ్లీహుడ్ ఆదాయం ఏం దాని నుంచి రాదనుకుంటారు. ఓకే, వాట్ సీమ్ టు బి సెన్స్లెస్ బికమ్స్ ప్రాక్టికల్, ఎ టౌన్ ఆఫ్ టూమ్స్ బికమ్ ఏ టౌన్ ఆఫ్ లైఫ్. ఓకే, సెన్స్లెస్ అన్ని కూడా సెన్సిబుల్ గా ప్రాక్టికల్ గా అనిపిస్తాయి. యూజెస్ మ్యాగ్జిమ్స్ లైక్ ఇక్కడ 3 మ్యాగ్జిమ్స్ మీకు లెసన్ లో చెప్పాను. ఎ డాగ్ ఇన్ ద మ్యాంజర్, వన్ హూ ప్రివెంట్స్ అదర్స్ టు హ్యావ్ ఏ పొసెషన్ దో హీ డస్ నాట్ నీడ్ ఇట్ హ్యావ్ ఇట్. ఓకే, ఒకరు దాని నుంచి ఎలాంటిది ప్రయోజనం పొందలేరు, కానీ వేరే వాళ్ళు కూడా అది పొందనివ్వకుండా అడ్డుపడుతూ ఉంటారు. ఎ డాగ్ ఇన్ ద మ్యాంజర్, లెటింగ్ ఎ స్లీపింగ్ డాగ్ లై, స్లీపింగ్ డాగ్ని స్లీపింగ్ కండిషన్లో ఉంచాలి. నాట్ టు డిస్కస్ ఓల్డ్ ఇష్యూస్ గురించి మనం మాట్లాడకూడదు, అస్ అ టైం వేస్ట్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఇల్ విండ్ దట్ బ్లోస్ నో బడీ ఎనీ గుడ్. ఎనీ బ్యాడ్ సిచ్యువేషన్, ఇన్ ఎనీ బ్యాడ్ సిచ్యువేషన్ గుడ్ ఇన్ ఇట్. ఏ బ్యాడ్ సిచ్యువేషన్లో సంథింగ్ గుడ్ ఉంటుంది. సో యూత్ న్యాచురల్గా వాళ్ళు రివోల్ట్ అవుతారు. దే డు నాట్ యాక్సెప్ట్ దెమ్ and see them as stones of depth rather than bread of life. All these maxims are completely denied by young people. Okay, they're against it, they revolt against them. It's only natural for them, and they see them as stones of death rather than bread of life. Okay, next. Industrial countries like America, England are more embarrassed. మనం ఫాస్ట్గా వెళ్ళిపోయాం అనుకుంటాం, కానీ అందులో చాలా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉండొచ్చు. మనం చాలా వెనుకబడి ఉన్నాం అనుకుంటాం అగ్రికల్చర్ కంట్రీస్ లైక్, అండ్ దెర్ ఆర్ పాసిబిలిటీస్ ఉంటాయి, చాలా బెటర్ పాసిబిలిటీస్ ఉంటాయి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఐర్లాండ్ ఇలాంటి కంట్రీస్, ఇండియా ఇలాంటి కంట్రీస్, దెర్ ఆర్ సో మెనీ పాసిబిలిటీస్. History and proverbs say that, another proverb, fortune is fickle and nobody would anticipate or is prepared for future failures until they happen. ఫార్చ్యూన్ ఇస్ ఫికిల్ అని మనకు ప్రావర్బ్ ఉంది, కానీ మనకు ఆ ఫెయిల్యూర్ వచ్చేంత వరకు కూడా ఫార్చ్యూన్ పోతుంది, మన ప్రైడ్ పోతుంది, మనం ఫాల్ అవుతామని ఎవరు కూడా రియలైజ్ అవ్వలేరు. ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ గివెన్ త్రూ ఏ ప్రావర్బ్. ప్రైడ్ గోస్ బిఫోర్ ఎ ఫాల్. ముందు ప్రైడ్ వచ్చింది, ఓకే, గర్వం వచ్చింది. ఓకే, దెన్ సమ్ పర్సన్ ఆర్ థింగ్ ఆర్ కింగ్డమ్స్ ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు ఫాల్ అని రియలైజ్ అవ్వం అన్నట్టు. Story of Hosley, I told you, a chief minister under Henry IV lost his power. How he lost his power? That's a story which supports, corroborates this, reinforces this proverb. Napoleon of Marengo and Napoleon of Moscow. Napoleon Marengo is a war. Napoleon the Great, who lived between 1769 and 1821, winning the war in 1800. Okay, till such time he was considered to be a great warrior. He was invincible, but he lost his war and he was imprisoned. Okay, in the War of Moscow in 1812. But nobody realized. The same way Charles I and V lost their own crown, their kingdoms. Okay, glory is not permanent. Okay, he's saying అనేది తర్వాత చెప్తారు, ముందే nobody will tell that it's okay. Glory is not permanent. We have disintegrations of empires like Roman Empire, Spanish Empire, German Empire, English Empire. All in this, all empires have fallen down, disintegrated totally. They're all the startling revelations to him in his old age. Old age gives you the wisdom of seeing into the truths. Okay, then we'll complete the last slide. Right, the transition or the realization is from inorganic to organic, from lifeless to life. The transition, the way you look at the perception is so dramatic that it is like you're moving from inorganic to organic, a lifeless thing becoming life, a 2D picture becoming 2D picture, 3D picture. Such is the difference and transition of your viewpoint, your perception. Okay, it's like birds, Egyptian birds and snakes on the walls coming to life and flying off. Such is the difference in your thinking before your old age and after your old age. Even as the old people are nearing their death, everything is coming to life. That is the irony of life. But the irony is there. You start realizing things and finding meaning and finding life in everything around you, but you are moving closer to death, and everything around you is okay, coming to life and growing younger, growing significant. Another important advantage is the paradox, which is seen in every development and invention in the society, set against the earlier background, which with wonderment and have a senile, that means old and weak, check-in, like movement of earth, going to church, and belief about um, supernatural, the ghosts and spirits, etc. All these inventions, etc., everything, the modern, okay, developments, everything you realize when you have old age sufficiently. You have lived for 60 years in your life. When you crossed your middle age, when you have advanced through your middle age, because you are there before the beginning of some new advancement, and you are there at the beginning of something new being added to the society, then you know the value of it. And there is a reference of Sir Oliver Lodge, a young British scientist and a pioneer of telegraphy and atomic study, whose ideas modeled a new religion of science and rationality, replacing the old. All these things can be realized only when you are old. So these are the real advantages. You live a different life. Okay. Until middle age, you live a two-dimensional life. In the old age, you live a three-dimensional life. That's the lesson. The advantages of being not being very young, or the advantages of or pleasures of being old. This is an essay in defense of old age. Okay. You want to grow old, or you want to realize the importance of all these maxims at your engage itself? That's the question. So if you like the video, do like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon. And we'll meet again with another interesting video. Until then, take care.